Hello everyone. So this is our next exercise on writing custom functions in Excel VBA. And in this case we are going to revisit an exercise that we did earlier when we were learning to use strings. And in our earlier iteration of this exercise we have this list of names in column A. And we wrote a loop that started at row 5 and iterated row by row down until it hit an empty row. And then for each row it would read the full name, and then from that it would extract the first name, put it in column B, and the second name, and put it in column C. And it would also convert the names to a proper title case. And we're going to do kind of the same thing here, but with a different approach. Instead of writing a loop, we are going to write a couple of custom functions, actually 3 custom functions. We're going to write one where you give it a full name string, last name, comma, first name, and it will extract and return the first name. We'll use that in column B. And we'll write another one that returns the first name, the part after the comma, and we'll put that in column C. And we'll also write a title case function that takes a first or last name and then converts it to a title case where the first character is uppercase and the remaining characters are lowercase. And we will call that function not from Excel but from our other functions, the first name and last name function. So let's jump right over to our code. And as we talked about earlier, whenever you're writing functions, you want to use them in Excel, in an Excel formula. It is very important that you put them in a module. So I'm going to make sure we have the module window open. And then we're going to say function. Let's do the last name function first because it's the easiest. And it takes a full name as string as its first argument, and it returns a string. So we're going to explicitly define the type of the input argument and the return type for the function. And so, as you may recall earlier, the key to solving this is finding where the comma location is. So I'm going to declare a variable called comma as integer, and that is the location of the comma in the string. And then we'll say comma equals in str1 full name and comma. So you call the instr function, you tell it to start looking at character 1 and search through the full name string, which is what is passed in as the argument here, and until it finds the comma character, and then it returns the location of that. If it doesn't find it, it returns a 0, but it will. And once we know where the comma location is, we can basically get our last name by saying last name equals left full name comma minus 1. So essentially, if you know where the comma is located, if you subtract 1 from that number, that tells you how many characters on the left side of the string represent the last name. And we can use the left function, which extracts the n leftmost characters from a string, and that returns that into, and we store that in our last name function. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But let's tighten this up a little bit here. Actually, yeah, let's just try that now to see if it works so far. We'll save our changes and go back and say equals last underscore name. And sure enough, works like a charm. So there are our last names. And let's go get our first names now. Write the code for that. So we'll say function first name, again, full name, string argument, and it's going to return a string. And once again, we need to know where the comma location is. So I'm just going to copy that part of the code. And once we know the comma location, again, it's quite easy to get the first name. If we know where the comma is located, if we go 2 characters to the right and grab everything from there to the end, we'll have the first name. And we can do that not using the right function, but using the mid function. So we'll say first name equals mid, full name, comma, plus 2. So we need to account for the space. If you go to the comma location plus a space, and then the next character should be the first name. So yeah, let's give that a shot. Go back to Excel, save our changes, equals first name, and there we go. Works beautifully. And so to this point, we've kind of accomplished the same thing we did before. Remember, we're using the exact same logic in terms of the string manipulations, but we're couching this in terms of a function. I really like this approach. We don't need a button to click, so you don't have to mess with that. You can apply it anywhere. You don't need a loop. You just write that logic, embed it in a function, and away you go. So one last step here is we want to convert everything to title case. So let's declare a final function, title case, and it's going to take, we'll call this mystr as string. It's going to return a string. So we're going to pass in a string, and it's going to modify that. And as you may recall, what we do is we say mystr equals, or excuse me, no, title case equals, we say ucase left mystr comma 1 ampersand l case mid mystr 2, and that should do it. So what we're doing is we're embedding some functions within functions. The left function says take the leftmost, oops, this needs to be 1, not 2. Take the leftmost 1 character from the string, convert it to uppercase, and then append onto that everything from the second character over to the right converted to lowercase. And that should give us our title case. Oh, wait a minute, now we need to call that. So here we need to say a couple ways we could do this. We could just say last name equals title case last name, and here we could do the same thing down. So before we return the return value for the function, we're going to send it to the title case function to modify it, and then that becomes our new modified name value. And let's give that a shot. Save our changes, and to make that execute, if we select a cell containing one of our functions, the cursor up in this formula cell and hit return, it should automatically change that. And then if we want to apply that everywhere, we can just copy those down. And there we go. We have title case working. You know, we could have applied title case, you know, here as part of the Excel formula. You could do a call to a custom function embedded in a call to a custom function. But I kind of like it doing it this way. It shows you that these functions can be called in Excel in formulas, or they can be called from other locations inside your Visual Basic code. And so yeah, once again, I really like this as a solution to this name extraction problem. I think it's a great way to do it. You don't have to mess with any buttons or something to initiate your macro. You just embed your code, the logic for your code in a custom function, and you can apply it anywhere. So that's the solution to this problem.